Chapter 42. Should I also feed the villagers to you? Having left Agatha behind, I headed to the hideout in the dungeon for some rest. I made sure that the vampire Judite wasn't using it and then entered. Master, what's the plan from here? As I sat down, the puppeteer started the conversation. Well, I nodded and zoned out. I'm tired, I don't even want to think due to exhaustion. First, we need to find a way to get out of this dungeon. And we also need to think about how you can become human. Oh, are you really going to think of a way for me to become human? Of course. To be honest, I have no clue why the puppeteer has suddenly abandoned the idea of eating me. However, it's clear that the current situation isn't bad, and to ensure the puppeteer doesn't change its mind, I need to keep showing my willingness to cooperate. Do you have any idea of a way to become human other than eating humans? Not really. I see. I wish there were some kind of clue, even a small one. So, I start to think. I've been tossed around by the parasitic sword puppeteer for a long time. Therefore, if there's any hint, I hope it can be found somewhere. Hey, puppeteer, you've parasitized many people before, right? Yeah, that's right. Could you tell me what it felt like when you did that? Well, I don't mind. Saying that, the puppeteer agreed. I can somewhat freely control the person I possess. The story the puppeteer told was similar to when it possessed me in a different timeline. However, there was a specific reason I had the puppeteer explain it. So, when you kill monsters, you grow in size, and the level of influence on the possessed person increases, right? Yeah, that's right. Does that mean it's impossible to interpret that the more monsters you kill, the closer you get to becoming human? In a different timeline, when the puppeteer possessed me, I have memories of it growing in size each time I killed a monster, and eventually, I was consumed by the puppeteer. So, I thought that the more monsters it kills, the closer it gets to becoming human. Well, it's impossible. Why are you so sure about that? I felt frustrated by the puppeteer's quick dismissal. I've been thinking about this a lot, after all. The more I kill monsters, the closer I get to becoming human. Killing monsters makes me bigger, enough to swallow humans. Certainly, now that it's said out loud, it makes sense. When I was possessed by the puppeteer, the more monsters I killed, the bigger it became, and it eventually swallowed me. But that didn't mean the puppeteer itself got closer to becoming human. Even now, controlling the puppeteer, giving it skill points obtained from defeating monsters makes it grow larger, transitioning from a short sword to a greatsword at level 3, transforming into a large creature known as the Ruthless Predator. In both cases, it simply gets bigger without getting any closer to becoming human. In that case, should I also feed the villagers to you? What do you mean by the villagers? Asked this way, I decided to explain. I explained how I had been persecuted by the villagers because of my silver hair and how they had killed my loved one, blaming me for the crime and subsequently banishing me to this dungeon. Master, you've been through quite a lot. Yeah, I want revenge so badly I'd kill the villagers, so it's okay to eat them. I see. In that case, I'll graciously accept and eat the villagers. Oh, thank you. First, let's focus on getting out of this dungeon. Right. After repeating this conversation, I went to sleep, preparing for tomorrow. It felt like I had finally slept well after a long time. Filled Diamond. The next day, I left the hideout. My destination was the deepest part of the dungeon, the boss's room. I had already leveled up sufficiently by defeating the golden living armor. So, I should be prepared to defeat the boss. Therefore, I headed to the room where the boss was, with the intention of escaping the dungeon. Wait, I thought the parasitic sword puppeteer wasn't in its usual place. What on earth is the situation here? After defeating the mid-boss, the giant griffin, she was standing there. It was none other than the vampire Judite, herself. Chapter 43. There's a dangerous scent coming from this person. Master, this person gives off a dangerous scent. I see, I understand. I was sweating profusely. I had been killed by the vampire Judite multiple times. She was incredibly aggressive. But as long as I didn't make a wrong move in dealing with her, it should be fine, as proven by the other timelines me. Nice to meet you, the great true ancestor vampire, Judite Sama. Saying that, I bowed respectfully. Oh my, it seems you have at least some manners. May I assume that much? Saying that, she narrowed her eyes. I think I managed to make a good impression. So, what exactly are you doing here? I'm trying to conquer this dungeon. And what is that thing you're holding in your hand? It's the parasitic sword puppeteer. It seems like you're carrying quite a dangerous item, isn't it? Saying that, she displayed a belligerent look and drew a blade from her wrist. This isn't good. It looks like we might have to fight. I'd rather not fight her if possible. Please wait. I control the parasitic sword puppeteer like this, so it won't randomly attack you. Please, just overlook this. I think it's best for both of us if we can avoid fighting. I desperately tried to persuade her. I hoped she would understand with this. Control the puppeteer. It's not easy to believe. But, having it in this form as a sword is proof that I can control it, I think. Well, I'll admit that your behavior is different from the adventurers who have been possessed by the parasitic sword puppeteer before. She placed her hand on her chin and appeared to be thinking. After careful consideration, she said, "Very well, I'll let it slide this time." I let out a sigh of relief. I was genuinely glad that we didn't have to fight. As the vampire Judite moved aside to clear the path, I passed by her. At that moment, something unexpected happened. That woman is acting quite high and mighty. She must have a terrible personality for sure. The puppeteer spoke, loudly enough for Judite to hear, and made a disrespectful comment. Are you kidding me? As soon as I said that, something flew towards us. Clank. I intercepted the flying object with my sword. It was a knife made of blood. Oh, she's really mad, isn't she? The puppeteer laughed, and his taunting escalated. That's quite an impolite sword you have. The vampire Judite showed her fangs. It seemed she was genuinely angry. I'm so sorry, I shouted as I ran away. Ha, 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 ha. Having successfully shaken off the vampire Judite, I was catching my breath. That was fun, wasn't it? The puppeteer seemed to be enjoying itself. You, on the other hand, I sighed, feeling exasperated. I was relieved I managed to escape, but I couldn't help but think about what would have happened if we'd fought. Is it because you're angry? The puppeteer asked. A little, I admitted. Why? Even if a vampire picks a fight, if my master and I joined forces, we could easily take her down. The puppeteer said this confidently, but I was still a bit curious about who would be stronger, me or the vampire Judite. Well, even if I had the confidence to win, I didn't want to fight her. Even if that's the case, I just don't want to fight her. Why's that? Why? Well, I hesitated, unable to provide a clear answer. I couldn't say it was because I had a good relationship with her in a different timeline. Maybe she's just your type, the puppeteer teased. And no, it's not like that. You're totally blushing right now, aren't you? I'm not blushing. Haha, teasing master is so much fun. Don't tease your own master too much. Well, I'll think about it. While exchanging such banter, we continued our journey deeper into the dungeon. I'm pretty sure it's around here. What are you looking for, master? There should be a hidden room somewhere around here. What's inside the hidden room? It contains an item called the Crystal of Wisdom, which grants a skill. You're amazing for knowing about a hidden room that has such an item, master. That's right. You should respect me more. Amazing, 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 amazing. Are you satisfied now? You definitely don't mean it from the bottom of your heart. The Crystal of Wisdom grants the attribute bestowal skill, although I'm not entirely clear on how to use it. Nevertheless, it's worth having. Oh, here's the hidden switch. When I press the switch, it reveals a passage leading to the hidden room. I step inside and find a room with a chest in the center. You have obtained the Crystal of Wisdom. The effect is activated automatically. A message appeared that I had seen before. I was surprised for a reason. The skill I had obtained was not attribute bestowal. Chapter 44 Master, you're so naughty. I had thought for sure that I would acquire another attribute bestowal, but upon calm reflection, I realized that this Crystal of Wisdom had the effect of obtaining one skill at random. So, it wasn't strange at all that the skill I acquired in a different time axis was different. You obtained the skill, Appraisal. Upon seeing the skill I had acquired in front of me, I wondered if I should be happy. I distinctly remember that appraisal was also in the list of skills that could be obtained with the Crystal of Wisdom. Since its rank was D, it might be considered a subpar skill. However, it seemed more useful than attribute bestowal, which had no practical application at all. Unable to come up with a better idea, I decided to give it a try for the time being. I used appraisal on the black sword I was holding. Appraisal is unavailable because the required level has not been reached. Seriously, Master, what are you muttering about? I wanted to appraise you, but I couldn't, so I got a little frustrated. Ah, you wanted to less than appraise greater than me, you naughty master. Calling someone naughty is a line that's only acceptable when it's a beautiful girl saying it. Nah, when I become human, I'll have the appearance of a beautiful maiden, you know. Hey, there's no way you will become a beautiful maiden. You'd be lucky to even become a cheeky young boy. Master, you just laughed with your nose. I didn't do such a thing. Even if you say that, you're smiling on the inside, aren't you? HMPH, that's fine. I'll show you when I really become a beautiful maiden. Well, I'll look forward to it. In reality, I am quite curious about what appearance Puppeteer will have when it becomes human. While having this conversation, I checked my skill points. Skill points, 1320. Less than provocation level 1 greater than remaining skill points for level up, 10. Less than swordsmanship level 3 greater than remaining skill points for level up, 3000. Less than parasitic sword puppeteer master level 2 greater than remaining skill points for level up, 700. Less than appraisal level 1 greater than remaining skill points for level up, 10. When I checked my skill points, I realized I had quite a bit of room to spare. Even if I leave 700 points to level up less than parasitic sword puppeteer master level 2 greater than to level 3, I still have a good amount of room. So, at this point, I decided to allocate points to less than provocation greater than and less than appraisal greater than. I put 110 points into each, raising them from level 1 to level 3 in one go. Skill points have been used. The conditions required for leveling up have been met. The skill less than appraisal greater than has leveled. The skill less than provocation greater than has leveled up. Alright, with the level up, I should be able to use less than appraisal greater than. So, once again, I tried using less than appraisal greater than on the less than black blade greater than. Less than black blade greater than. One of the forms of the parasitic sword puppeteer. It has a sharp edge. I managed to less than appraise greater than it, but it only contains things I already know. This left me somewhat disappointed. It seemed like I didn't need to spend skill points to level it up, after all. Anyway, I completed what I wanted to do in this room and left the hidden chamber. Then, I headed towards the room where the boss was. Master, are you nervous? Well, a bit. As I was about to open the boss room, Puppeteer spoke up. The boss in this dungeon was so formidable that even a vampire like Judite couldn't defeat it, so saying I wasn't nervous would be a lie. Shall I help you relax a bit? Can you do that? Hey, I can be surprisingly helpful, you know. Is that so? In that case, please. Hooray, hooray. Go, Master. Do your best, Master. Puppeteer exclaimed loudly. Is that all? I muttered because it felt somewhat lacking. No, it was quite embarrassing, so you should praise me more. Sigh, you just made fun of me, Master. Well, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I really didn't intend to make fun of Puppeteer. Thank you, Puppeteer. For now, I expressed my gratitude. What's with the formal gratitude? No, I'm truly thankful. Honestly, if it weren't for Puppeteer's help, I wouldn't have made it this far. So, there's no doubt that I'm genuinely grateful. Forget the gratitude for now. After all, the real deal is yet to come, right? Well, you're right. Certainly, as Puppeteer said, it might be premature to express gratitude at this stage when it's still uncertain if we can win. So, instead of gratitude, I said this. Well then, I'm counting on you, Puppeteer. Yeah, leave it to me. After receiving his reply, I pushed open the door. Now, it's time for the first encounter with the dungeon's boss. Chapter 45. I'm sorry. I caused you to worry. In a dungeon, there is always a presence known as the boss. The boss hides deep within the dungeon, and defeating it allows you to obtain rewards, and furthermore, it grants you the ability to return outside the dungeon. Pushing a particularly large door, it opens with surprisingly little effort. As the door opened, I took a few steps into the room, and with a clanging sound, I turned around to see that the door had closed. I was trapped. Master, there's something here. Yeah, I know, I responded to Puppeteer's words. I sensed a presence in the depths of the room. Gya, a roar echoed. The vibration from the incredibly loud sound reverberated throughout my body. What is that? It was an enormously large monster, with a length easily exceeding 5 meters. It had a multitude of legs and its body was elongated and twisted. It had a grotesque appearance. Less than great centipede Rumo is greater than. A giant centipede-like monster with an S-class difficulty rating. It sprays poison from its body. Contact with this poison can even dissolve metal. I used less than appraisal greater than to assess the monster's characteristics. I see, less than appraisal greater than can reveal details that are not visible to the naked eye. It seems I'll need to be extremely cautious about the poison. Pulsating great sword. For now, I transformed Puppeteer into the form of a great sword. This sword should have its unique ability, less than autonomous function greater than, so it shouldn't be an opponent I can't defeat. Kisha. The great centipede Rumoa's charges. I evade its attack and seize an opportunity to strike. Puppet sword technique, grand wheel slash. A vertical spinning slash performed after a high jump. It's tough. With a clink, the blade is repelled. Its skin is harder than I imagined. I continue to attempt to attack multiple times, but my attacks have no effect at all. Damn it, damn it. I muttered these words under my breath while repeatedly attempting to strike. However, in what seemed like mockery, the great centipede Rumoas let out a high-pitched cackling sound. Challenging the boss might have been premature. Unconsciously, I had come to that conclusion. This time, it was a failure. So, I thought it might be better to accept defeat here and make better use of it in the next attempt. After all, even if I died, time would rewind. In that case, I should give it my all in the next attempt. Knowing the boss's strength alone was a significant gain, I could think of no other way. Master, what are you giving up for? Suddenly, Puppeteer's rebuke reached my ears. It seemed like he had noticed my resignation. Didn't we make a promise? You promised to turn me into a human. That's right. I was standing here now because I made a promise with Puppeteer. Certainly, I could probably start over even if I died. However, Puppeteer would be different from the current one. The promise I made with the current Puppeteer could only be fulfilled in this time axis. I'm sorry for causing you to worry. There's no way I should give up. I have to struggle until the end, otherwise, I'll never conquer this dungeon, no matter how much time passes. I'm going to get a little more serious. Master. Certainly, the skin of the great centipede Rumoas is tough, and I can't break through it with my current abilities. But there must be a soft spot somewhere that I can penetrate. For example, inside its body. Hey, you, small fry. My life is right here. Aim properly. I use less than provocation greater than against the great centipede Rumoas. Gya. The great centipede Rumoas charges at me while screeching, an attack that's far too predictable. It's just as I intended. Puppetry sword technique, swift dragon thrust. I charged forward. I didn't mind being devoured. No, rather, come at me. I'll cut you from the inside with my blade. I plunged into the mouth of the great centipede Rumoas and, with that momentum, thrust my blade and fiercely tore it apart. With each slash, blue blood splattered over me. And then, I found myself outside the body of the great centipede Rumoas. Confirmed the subjugation of the monster. Acquired skill points. Along with that message window, the split corpse of the great centipede Rumoas fell to the ground. We did it, Master. Hearing Puppeteer's cheers, I finally became aware of something. That I had defeated the boss of the dungeon. I did it, didn't I? I found it a little hard to believe. Until now, I had never managed to defeat any monster on my first try. I had died multiple times, over and over, redoing it each time, and only then achieving victory. So, the fact that I had defeated the dungeon boss on the first attempt was surprising, especially considering that I had expected to face many challenges before entering this room. Hey, Master, let's celebrate more. You've finally defeated the boss you've been longing for. You're right. Various memories flashed back. When I was wrongfully banished to the depths of the dungeon. Afterward, I had engaged in repeated life and death battles with the armored bear bugbears. Then, I met Agatha, the vampire Jut, and puppeteer. And now, I had achieved the long-awaited dungeon conquest. Yes, I couldn't help but shout in triumph. Chapter 46 The Flame of Revenge. By defeating the boss of the Katarov dungeon, the great centipede Rumoas, several changes occurred. First, the acquisition of the clear reward. You acquired the clear reward, the blazing sword. What I got was a sword dyed red all the way to the blade. It looks strong at first glance, but I have parasitic sword puppeteer, and it doesn't seem like I'll have the opportunity to use it myself. Well, there's no reason not to accept it, though. The other change was the appearance of a teleportation circle on the floor, which allows me to leave after defeating the boss. If I step on this, I can go outside, right? Yes, indeed, my master. With that in mind, I step onto the teleportation circle. At that moment, the teleportation circle began to emit a dazzling light. Is someone there? Suddenly, puppeteer muttered. What? I look around, but the light from the teleportation circle is too bright, making it impossible to see anything clearly. However, it seems that someone is indeed present. This is because the skill, appraisal, reacted. Less than, greater than, appraisal unavailable. However, the result only says, appraisal unavailable, so the true identity remains unknown. And in the next moment, the outside scenery had changed. It seems the teleportation was successful. Katarov village. That's the village where I was born and raised since my childhood. It's a village with a population of less than 3,000. The main industry here is dungeons. Due to the presence of the Katarov dungeon, at the center of the town, the village thrives on a business catering to adventurers who come to conquer that dungeon. Because of the influx of adventurers, there are many weapon shops and taverns lining the streets. I spent my life in this village as a farmer. However, I was constantly persecuted in this village due to my silver hair. Silver-haired individuals were targets of persecution because a long time ago, the Alkas, who betrayed humanity and sided with the demon race, had silver hair. The humiliation I endured for many years in this village is not something I can forget. I was frequently pelted with stones by the villagers, and I was always injured. The farmland I worked so hard to cultivate was vandalized by someone. I had to pay more taxes than others. So, I was always poor and couldn't have a decent meal. Because of that, my mother fell ill and passed away. And, I can't forget my childhood friend, Namia. Namia was the only one who stood by my side. She protected me when I was pelted with stones, and she secretly brought me food when I was in need. Namia was to be married to the village chief's son, Darga. I remember that day very well. Namia said she liked me and proposed eloping to start a new life together. I agreed, and that night, I headed to Namia's house. I don't want to remember what happened after that. The most horrifying scene unfolded there. Afterward, I was banished to the depths of the Katarov dungeon, using a teleportation circle, accused of raping and murdering Namia. Despite the fact that Darga was the one who killed Namia, the villagers conspired and placed all the blame on me. And now, at this moment, I have finally returned. Hey, a dungeon returnee has appeared. Someone cleared this dungeon. Suddenly, voices were heard. Come to think of it, the village had a pedestal where those who conquered the dungeon were supposed to stand. That's right, the fact that I appeared on that pedestal with light means that even those who didn't know the details would realize that someone had conquered the dungeon. Skill points have been used. The conditions for leveling up have been met. The skill, Parasitic Sword Puppeteer Master, has leveled up. Parasitic Sword Puppeteer Master LV. 3. Without a word, I allocated skill points and leveled up, Parasitic Sword Puppeteer Master. Acquired the derived skill, Ruthless Predator. Hey, isn't that Kiska? No way, that's ridiculous. There's no way he could clear the dungeon. Well, but, that silver hair, he sure looks like Kiska. The crowd began to stir. It seems like the audience was starting to realize that my true identity was Kiska, the one banished to the depths of the dungeon. Hey, puppeteer. Yeah, what is it, master? Do you remember what the villagers did to me? I had previously confided my past to puppeteer. Of course, those guys were really terrible. I used my desire for revenge as a driving force to conquer this dungeon with all my might. Yeah, that's right. But, I was a little anxious. I was afraid that when the opportunity came to conquer the dungeon and have a chance to tear these villagers to pieces with my own hands, I might hesitate. I worried that I might lack the courage to hurt people and become incapable of doing anything. I've been anxious about it all along. What I remember is that when I tried to feed Agatha to puppeteer, I couldn't do anything due to guilt and ended up vomiting right there. I was worried that the same thing might happen in front of the villagers, making me unable to do anything. So, the opportunity for revenge has finally come, but how do you feel now? The puppeteer asked with an amused tone. So, I expressed my honest feelings. I want to kill every single one of them. Ha ha ha, that's the spirit. Open angle bracket ruthless predator close angle bracket. Saying that, I transformed puppeteer into ruthless predator. The puppeteer then transformed into a massive creature specialized only for eating. You can eat all of them. Itadakimasu. The long-awaited revenge begins. Chapter 47. A cruel way to die. Saint stop, please see. Ah, what is this SSSS? The ruthless predator extended tentacle-like appendages, grabbing the villagers one by one and tossing them into its mouth. As the villagers were thrown into its mouth, it chewed with a squelching sound, using its powerful jaws to crush them. Puppeteer, I have some business to attend to, so I'm going to go. You can go wild as you like. Understood, master. The villagers were completely preoccupied with the ruthless predator and paid me no attention. In their distraction, I moved away to find my intended targets. My trusted parasitic sword puppeteer had transformed into the ruthless predator, so I had a newly acquired, blazing sword, in my hand. There were certain individuals that I needed to thoroughly make regret their actions. First, Darga, the village chief's son, who was responsible for the death of Namiya. He deserved the harshest punishment. Next was Rizlet, the village chief, who was the main instigator behind blaming me for Darga's crimes. And the 4 men who often hung around with Darga. They were among those who were at Namiya's house that day. Even though they were present at the scene, they provided false testimony that I had committed the crime. There was also the judge who sentenced me to exile, but dealing with him could be of lower priority. In any case, I needed to apprehend the individuals mentioned above to ensure they didn't escape. Hey, it looks like monsters have appeared in the town. What kind of monsters have appeared? I've never seen monsters like these. What? Really? What are the adventurers doing? Hurry up and subdue them. What's the guild doing? Gather the adventurers. The village was in chaos. Everyone was in a state of panic, with some ready to fight, some trying to escape, and others attempting to call for help. People's reactions varied. The so-called monsters were most likely the ruthless predator. While the ruthless predator wasn't actually a monster, its appearance could easily be mistaken for one. Now, where could they be? I've found him, I muttered as I spotted one of my targets. It's been a while. I greeted him. In reality, it had only been about a week since I returned to this place after being banished to the dungeon, but due to the hundreds of times I had experienced death and rebirth, it felt like I hadn't seen him in many years. Why is Kiska here? The person I looked at seemed flustered and voiced their surprise. Now, why do you think that is, Darga? Anyway, I don't have time to deal with you right now. It seems that monsters have appeared in the village. I'm busy dealing with those monsters right now. Stay out of the way. Hey, Darga, what would you think if the cause of the monsters appearing in the village was me? Huh, I don't understand what you're talking about. Darga couldn't finish his sentence. No, I didn't let him. Darga, I'll tell you something because it seems you've misunderstood. I can kill you anytime I want. As I said that, I swung my sword. I stabbed a blade into Darga's left arm and cut it deeply. The blazing sword had a red-hot blade, which, upon cutting, could coagulate blood with its heat, stopping the bleeding. It was a sword designed more for torture than for killing. Arg. In agony, Darga writhed on the ground. Don't mess around with me. Despite the pain, Darga still seemed to have some fight left in him and attempted to exert some dominance over me. Yes, is something the matter? Lord Darga, what in the world is all this commotion? I noticed that men who had become aware of the unusual situation were rushing over. Among them was one of the men who had broken into Namia's house that day. They seemed to be preparing to deal with the monsters, as all of them were armed. Hey, you guys, kill this silver-haired guy. Darga ordered the men. In an instant, all of them gripped their weapons tightly and charged at me. In the past, I would have been defenseless and likely beaten to a pulp. But now, with my current abilities, you weaklings, come at me. Don't get cocky. I used provocation to lure their attacks and then evaded, countering their strikes. Ag. The slashed man collapsed on the spot. I continued to cut down one after another with my blade. What's with this guy's movements? Absolutely, we can't lay a finger on him. Please, stop. Ag. If I had survived that hellish dungeon, dealing with these guys would be a walk in the park. I could take them down with my eyes closed. Darga, I'll say it again, think about why I'm here. As I said this, I stepped on one of the fallen men. All the attackers had already been subdued. I never thought you'd come back from that dungeon. Finally, it seemed like he had realized. Quite slow on the uptake. He appeared to be quite dense. Hey, Darga, do you know what I was thinking while I was conquering the dungeon? What are you talking about? I've been thinking about how to get revenge on you all this time. I've been contemplating how to give you the most gruesome death. Whether it's bludgeoning, beheading, impalement, water torture, burning, whipping, flaying, eye gouging, finger amputation, starvation, venereal disease, suffocation, live burial, genital mutilation, poisoning, confinement, or stabbing, I've been thinking about it continuously. I spoke in a single breath, and with each word, Darga's face contorted in terror. Hey, master, can I eat these guys too? Suddenly, I noticed that the puppeteer was approaching. It had probably come this far while devouring the villagers. By these guys, it probably meant the people who had attacked me and were subsequently defeated. Anyone except for this one is fair game. I pointed at Darga while giving my permission. Got it. The puppeteer replied energetically and used its tentacles to devour the men one after another. Stop. Awa. No, please. No. Let go, let me go. Everyone struggled desperately, but their resistance was futile. One by one, the puppeteer's powerful jaws crushed them. Did you summon this monster? Darga asked with an expression of utter despair. Yeah, that's right. So, I affirmed it. Instantly, an unpleasant smell reached my nose. Oh, this guy must have soiled himself in fear. Don't worry, you won't be killed as easily as these guys. Help me. I was wrong. I apologize, so please help me. Instantly, Darga began apologizing profusely as if begging for his life. Seeing that, I couldn't help but feel disappointed deep down. What a small-minded person he was. If he were a villain, I wished he would act like one. Apologizing like this made it seem like I was the one in the wrong. So, with a hint of exasperation, I said, with that, there's no way I'll forgive you. Chapter 48 Please torture my father. One of the forms of the puppeteer, less than ruthless predator greater than, seems to grow as it consumes more, and it is still getting larger. Hey, puppeteer, is it okay if I move away from here for a bit? Yeah, sure, master. I saw puppeteer nod in response and then shifted my gaze to Darga. Darga seemed to be already in a state of shock, trembling in fear. Hey, Darga, stand up. Even though I commanded, Darga was just shivering and didn't react. So, I ordered more forcefully, stand up. Yes. Darga jumped up as if he had been startled. Guide me to the village chief's place. Don't answer back. Don't think. Just listen to what I say. Yes, why yes. He should be over here. Darga, now entirely abashed, said this and walked ahead. I followed behind him. Our destination was the Adventurers Guild. I was aware of its existence, but I had never been inside. There was no particular reason for me to go. The interior of the Adventurers Guild was bustling. Presumably, they were in the middle of a dispute over how to deal with the less than ruthless predator greater than. Village Chief Rizlet was at the central table, apparently having an argument with other adventurers. Come on, hurry up and subdue that monster. I've already told you it's impossible. Besides, we should request reinforcements from a nearby guild. Damn it, we've already sent a request for reinforcements long ago, you good for nothing. Amidst the shouting, someone forcefully pushed through. Please, help me. It was Darga, who had been walking in front of me. This silver-haired guy teamed up with the monster to attack the village. Please, I beg you. Kill him right now, he exclaimed as he rushed toward the adventurers, pleading for assistance. Hey, isn't that Kiska? Kiska was banished deep into the dungeon. Wait, why is he here? Upon noticing my presence, they voiced their doubts and scrutinized me. Is it true that this guy released monsters in the village? Oh yeah, it's true. I saw him commanding the monsters. In response to Village Chief Rizlet's inquiry, Darga answered as such. Haha, there's no way a guy like this could be controlling monsters. Even if you tell me that a mere useless farmer can summon monsters. Maybe the village chief's son has gone crazy out of fear. They began to laugh and chat, seemingly unconcerned. So, although I internally knew that less than ruthless predator greater than wasn't a monster, it didn't matter to them. Listen, village chief. Ignoring the surrounding commotion, I addressed him. You banished me to the depths of the dungeon on false charges. And you know it was your own son lying there who raped and killed Namia, not me. What are you saying? Someone, stop this guy. While I was still in the middle of speaking, the village chief ordered the adventurers around him. They attempted to rush me, but I calmly evaded them and continued talking. My sole reason for coming here is to seek revenge on all of you. What nonsense are you spouting? As Village Chief Rizlet began to say something, he was interrupted. This guy has returned from the depths of the dungeon, and he even brought monsters with him. So, kill him now. He's dangerous. The one who interrupted the village chief was Darga, and his cry was filled with fear. It seemed that the adventurers had finally realized the gravity of the situation after hearing Darga's explanation, understanding the implications of a human who should have been banished to the depths of the dungeon returning to the village. Hey, someone restrain this man immediately. If necessary, you can kill him. Village Chief Rizlet ordered, and immediately, the adventurers armed themselves. Ha ha ha, too bad, Kiska. You might have survived the dungeon and grown stronger, but you can't possibly win against this many adventurers. Your fate is sealed, and I bid you farewell. Darga, seemingly relieved that he was now protected by the adventurers, taunted. It seemed unlikely that I could win against this many adventurers, so, why not put that to the test? Then the battle with the adventurers began. They came at me without hesitation, wielding their weapons and spewing insults like, die. And, drop dead. In response, I gripped the less than blazing sword greater than and prepared to fight. The one thought that occurred to me during the battle was, compared to battles with dungeon monsters, this is way too easy. When I was fighting numerous armored bugbears and golden living armors, it was billions of times tougher than this. While thinking about this, I quickly defeated all the adventurers. Hey, what's going on here? Why are you all lying on the ground? He's just one guy. This doesn't make any sense. Darga's screams could be heard. So, what did you say earlier? There's no way you can win against this many adventurers. Wasn't that it? Huh, strange, isn't it? Can you still say the same thing now? Well. Both Darga and the village chief were terrified. Ah, I thought there was a foul smell. These guys had lost control of their bladders again. We might as well play a little game. A game, the village chief muttered. Yeah, how about this? I'll torture only one of you. And the two of you can decide who's going to be tortured. Come on, discuss and decide now which one of you will undergo the torture. These two are father and son. So I thought I might hear lines like, I don't care, do whatever you want with me. Just don't harm him, but, you should be the one to be tortured. It's your fault that it came to this, you killed Namia. Don't screw around, you're the one who framed Kiska. So, it's your responsibility, father. I did it for your own good. Then, endure this torture for my own good. The two started a brawl, shouting and hitting each other. It was a pathetic fight, to say the least. They exchanged insults and engaged in a rather ugly physical altercation. Watching this was both absurd and somewhat amusing, but it didn't make the anger in my gut go away. If you don't decide in the next 10 seconds, I'll torture both of you. Saying this, I began to count, 10, 9, 8. In response, the scuffle between the two heated up and deteriorated into an even uglier brawl. You should be the one to be tortured. Father should be the one. As the two of them fought, I announced, 0. Too bad, looks like I'll have to torture both of you. It couldn't be helped if they couldn't decide, so I decided to torture both of them. I'm very sorry. My son has caused a great deal of trouble this time. I apologize for this, so please, at least spare me. It was truly a magnificent bow. The top of his head touched the floor, and his elbows formed a perfect 90-degree angle. Right now, there was no one else in the world making such a magnificent bow, and it was truly an outstanding performance. I don't mind what happens to my son. So, please, at least spare me. I beg of you, Father. You damn traitor, you piece of crap. I was deeply moved. The village chief had bowed and betrayed his own son. This grotesque sight was unlike any other in the world, and that's why I felt I had to respond from the bottom of my heart. All right, let's consider the village chief's plea. What? Saying this, his son, Darga, screamed as if he couldn't believe it. Without delay, Darga took action as well. Yes, just like his father, he also went down on his knees. I apologize. I should be the one to apologize, so please torture my father. There's no way such an argument would be accepted. Doing it once had its value, but attempting it a second time was pointless. Darga, there's no way your argument is going to work. See, even his father is saying that. Village chief, we're going to tie him up with a rope now. Please cooperate. Understood. With that said, since Darga tried to escape, we forcibly caught him and, with the village chief's help, tied him to a pillar. Father, I'll hate you for the rest of my life. Damn you. Darga desperately hurled insults at his father, but his father seemed unbothered. Well then, village chief, now please follow my instructions and execute your son. Me, execute him. If you won't do it, then. No, I will do it. Please let me. I was thinking about saying, in that case, the village chief will be subjected to the torture instead. I was about to speak, but the village chief interrupted me with his insistence. All right, then. Please proceed, I said as I handed a knife to the village chief. Now, let's start by cutting off all of his fingers. With that, the village chief began torturing his son. It's because of your damn antics that we're in this situation. Show some remorse, you scumbag. As the village chief spewed insults, he continued to cut his son with the blade. Arg. Meanwhile, his son continued to scream and occasionally cursed, Father, I'll definitely kill you later. The torture conducted by the father on his son went on for several hours. I watched the scene throughout, pondering, why are humans so ugly? Chapter 49. Now that the revenge is over. Outside the window, the air felt heavy with oppression. Village Chief Rizlet's torture of his son Darga continued. It seemed that they were no longer aware of my presence, and the torture would go on even without me. I wonder if my revenge is finally over. The anger and grudges I had carried for so long seemed to have dissipated. I felt a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. However, at the same time, I felt a sense of loneliness. The saying, revenge brings nothing, holds true, but I had no regrets. I've killed many people, I muttered suddenly. If you kill this many, you're bound to become a wanted criminal. I had killed many in the name of revenge and to help the puppeteer's growth towards becoming human. Well, the puppeteer had killed far more than I did. Yes, I should check on the puppeteer's progress. Maybe it has finally become human. But before that, there's one place I want to visit. So, I got up. When I stepped outside, it was eerily quiet. However, in the distance, I heard screams. It seemed that the puppeteer was still wreaking havoc. The apparent calm was probably due to the villagers hiding indoors to avoid being found by the puppeteer. Amidst this, I walked toward my destination. There it is. Before me was a small grave made of stones, Namia's resting place. As a condemned criminal, I couldn't attend her funeral or burial. So, I sat down and clasped my hands. Damn it. Suddenly, tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't hold them back. I was finally coming to terms with Namiya's death. Revenge had been my driving force all this time, and now that it was over, I needed to move forward. After all, revenge is something you do to settle past humiliations. Nevertheless, Namiya's death remained a sad reality, so let me cry here for a little while. I wondered how much time had passed. I had spent some lonely moments with Namiya. It's time to go to the puppeteer's location. With that thought, I stood up, and then a deep, thunderous noise reverberated, rattling my eardrums. I turned toward the source of the sound. There, a colossal egg-shaped black object had manifested. It was larger than a tower. I immediately recognized it as the puppeteer. The egg cracked open, as if hatching, and the dark shell turned into a muddy stream, rushing toward the village. I knew that the moment of the puppeteer's transformation into a human had arrived. Puppeteer, I shouted as I advanced through the black muddy stream. The puppeteer's dream was to become human. If it had achieved that, it was undoubtedly a cause for celebration. Therefore, I needed to meet the puppeteer and celebrate the moment. I wondered if the puppeteer had become a man or a woman in the end. Not just the gender, but I was also curious about its appearance. Was it tall or short? What color was its hair? Besides, if it had become human, it felt strange to still call it the puppeteer. Perhaps it would be better to give it a more human-like name. As I continued through the black muddy stream, I spotted a figure in the center. It was clear that this figure was the puppeteer. So, I was about to call out from behind. Ah! The screaming pierced my ears. It was a high-pitched, anguished scream. What happened, puppeteer? I shouted. In response, the puppeteer seemed to notice my presence. It turned towards me and said, "It's different." What's different? I was about to ask, but different, 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 different. Overwhelmed by the puppeteer's words, I was left speechless. What I wanted to become was a human, not this. I'm not a monster. Saying that, the puppeteer broke down in tears. The appearance of the puppeteer was such that the right half was that of a human girl. With fair skin, a cute young face, and long hair, she had a look that made it easy to believe she was a human girl. However, the left half was different. A monstrous, dark, and glossy skin clung to the outside of the human half. Moreover, tentacles and reptilian-like eyes sprouted from various parts of the body. At the tips of the tentacles, there were jaws with shark-like teeth. Kill me. Kill me, please, even if you say that. But, there's no point in living in this form. So, please, kill me. Even when begged with tearful eyes, I couldn't bring myself to do something like that. No matter what form you're in, I think it's okay. Lies. Don't lie like that. It's the truth. Then, can you love someone like me? When asked that, I froze for a moment. Even if I were to say, I can love someone like you, those words felt too shallow, and I couldn't bring myself to say them out loud. Guess it's impossible after all. Interpreting my silence as rejection, the puppeteer muttered these words. Well, I mean, it's natural, right? I look like a monster. Saying this, as I saw the sorrowful expression on the puppeteer's face, I acted instinctively. I had to help her, that's what I thought, and so I held her tightly. I like you. Don't lie. It's not a lie. Don't be kind. You. After that, I just continued to embrace the crying puppeteer. I think I was crying along with her. A few minutes passed in that state. Then, just when I thought the puppeteer had stopped crying, she pushed me away with one hand. Pushed away, I released the arms that had been holding her and took a few steps back. Thank you, master. She smiled, and in the next moment, a massive black jaw descended from above, swallowing her whole. I was left dumbfounded. The black liquid that had covered the village until a moment ago was gradually disappearing. There was no trace of the puppeteer anywhere. She had chosen to end her own life. What is this? I collapsed, feeling utterly powerless. A sense of profound emptiness washed over me. Was all the fighting I had done up to this point for this kind of ending? Without any clear reason, I knelt there and wept. After crying for a while, I slowly got up. My legs felt unsteady, but I still forced myself to walk. Is it still there, I wonder? Saying that, I opened the status screen. Name, Kiska. Skill 1, Save and Reset. Skill 2, Provocation LV.3. Skill 3, Swordsmanship LV.3. Skill 4, None. Skill 5, Appraisal LV.3. The skill, Parasitic Sword Puppeteer Master, had disappeared with the puppeteer's death. However, what I wanted to confirm was the Save and Reset skill. As long as Save and Reset was available, I could start over as many times as I wanted. Believing that, I threw myself off the cliff. I was certain that I hadn't worked hard for this kind of future. So, if I wanted to achieve the future I desired, I had no choice but to start over as many times as necessary. Chapter 50 Rolling. Am I really back here? I opened my eyes to find myself in the room where the armored bear bugbears appeared. It seemed like time had rolled back to before I defeated the armored bear bugbears. I was certain that I would meet the puppeteer after this. In this level, there were 3 teleportation circles. The first teleportation circle led to the sealed Agatha, the second to the vampire Judite, and the third to the puppeteer. At this moment, I had a stronger desire to turn the puppeteer into a human rather than seeking revenge. I was willing to repeat time as many times as needed to make the puppeteer into a proper human. With that determination, I stepped into the third teleportation circle. I'm sure the puppeteer should be ahead. I said this and proceeded down a straight path. Grr. I heard a fierce growl. Before me was a creature resembling a black shadow. It was massive, filling the entire corridor, with a colossal jaw that covered its entire body. The jaw was lined with strong, sharp teeth, and numerous black tentacles sprouted from various parts of its body. These characteristics somewhat resembled the ruthless predator skill of the puppeteer. If you were to make ruthless predator even larger and give it a more grotesque appearance, it might look something like this. Puppeteer. So, I muttered. I was sure there was a puppeteer resembling a sword here. However, its presence was nowhere to be found, and only the creature remained. No, it can't be. Because if time was rewinding, every event should be reset. Therefore, there should be the parasitic sword puppeteer here. No. The skill, Save and Reset, was undoubtedly a skill that rewound time when I died. Rewinding time meant that all memories and experiences should be reset. However, there were exceptions that didn't reset even when time rewound. One was Agatha. It was clear from her words and actions that she had memories from another timeline. And this puppeteer was another one of those exceptions. When I first met her, the parasitic sword puppeteer was merely an entity that possessed me and devoured monsters one after another. After going through several loops, I tried to control the puppeteer under the guidance of the vampire Judite, and I remember her saying this to me in the deep world. Your soul has a somewhat nostalgic scent. This was evidence that, even though memories from another timeline weren't clear, they were to some extent retained. There were several peculiarities about the puppeteer. For example, her appearance in the deep world gradually became more human with each return from death, and she started speaking to me, even though she couldn't in the previous timelines. Although she wasn't aware of it herself, there was plenty of evidence that the parasitic sword puppeteer was able to escape the effects of time resetting. So, this is the result. I muttered to myself, looking at the complete monstrosity that the puppeteer had become. I don't know the exact reasons, but as a result of time rewinding, the puppeteer had turned into a monster. What the? I said weakly. After all, the puppeteer was supposed to become a human. However, this appearance was far from human. Is such a cruel fate even possible? Oh, tears flowed naturally. What should I have done? How could I have made the puppeteer happy? Maybe, the puppeteer couldn't become human anymore. Thinking about it that way filled me with helplessness and frustration. Is there a future where the puppeteer becomes human after countless returns from death? I want to believe there is, but I have no idea how to achieve it. Gar. I heard a growl, and at the same time, the puppeteer swallowed me whole. A few seconds later, I realized I had died. Game over. Would you like to try again? Yes. No. Yes has been selected. You will resume from the saved point. Chapter 51. Should I rely on Agatha? Due to a false accusation, I was exiled to the depths of the dungeon. For someone like me who had only ever worked the fields, being sent to the depths of the dungeon meant certain death. Not only was I being exiled to just any dungeon, but it was the S-class dungeon called the Katarov dungeon. This made my chances of survival even slimmer. As expected, right after entering the dungeon, I was attacked by monsters, and I could feel death closing in. However, right at that moment, someone extended a helping hand to me. A mysterious figure that appeared out of nowhere granted me the skill, save and reset. Thanks to this, I obtained the ability to reset after death. From that point on, I experienced countless deaths. Then, around the 560th attempt, a turning point came. By using the parasitic sword puppeteer on the dungeon's boss, I managed to defeat it, escape the dungeon, and was given the chance to seek revenge on the villagers who had falsely accused me. However, the puppeteer, driven to despair by her inability to become human, chose to end her life, and I decided to die and reset once again. Around the 570th attempt, I hit a dead end. In previous timelines, the puppeteer remained in the form of a sword within the dungeon. By handling her effectively, I had successfully conquered the dungeon. However, for reasons unknown, no matter how many times I repeated time, the puppeteer started appearing in front of me as a monstrous entity. As a result, I repeated the scenario of being devoured by the puppeteer multiple times. Damn it, what should I do? Given the current situation where I can't use the parasitic sword puppeteer's ability, I have no clue about how to conquer the dungeon. Well, if I keep repeating the attempts, I might find a way to conquer this dungeon even without the puppeteer in my hands. But that would be meaningless. My current goal is not to conquer the dungeon but to turn the puppeteer into a human. Should I rely on the vampire Judite? She might know something about how to turn the puppeteer into a human. So, by contacting her, there's a possibility that Agatha might start moving again. The memory of Agatha suddenly appearing and killing Judite as soon as I contacted her is a bad memory. It seems that Agatha strongly dislikes me contacting the vampire Judite. In that case, should I rely on Agatha? Previously, when I tried to release Agatha's seal, I have memories of being killed without a word. Thinking about that, I strongly resist contacting Agatha. However, it's not like I can do nothing. Having made up my mind, I walked straight towards my destination. I found it. When I walked to the first teleportation gate, there was a sealed girl there. She was sleeping inside the barrier, and her body was tied with chains made of light. No matter how many times I looked at it, I couldn't help but find the sight of her being sealed in the barrier beautiful. I could easily break the barrier last time, I muttered while touching the barrier. Suddenly, the barrier cracked, and with a sound like shattering glass, it started to break. With this, her seal was released. Simultaneously, I took a big step back to distance myself from her. Agatha let out a breath as she slowly opened her eyes. That was her first utterance. I couldn't help but widen my eyes. Don't you remember me? While I had met her in various timelines, it was clear from her actions that she retained memories from different timelines, just like I did. So I thought it was natural for her to remember me. Have we met somewhere before? If so, I apologize. I can't seem to recall you. I can't remember you. Well, if you don't remember, that's fine, I said while feeling relieved. If she didn't remember past events, that might be convenient in some way. I know it might sound strange to ask this of someone I've just met, but may I ask you a question? Oh, sure, feel free to ask anything. I nodded, and she replied, thank you, before continuing. Do you happen to know who I am? It took me several seconds to understand what she was saying. Chapter 52. Solidifying my future direction. I was unsure of what to say. When I thought I had released the seal on Agatha, she spoke like this. Do you know who I am? Are you suffering from amnesia? Amnesia, well, considering the current situation, that expression might be correct. Amnesia. I had heard of this condition before, but this was the first time I had seen it firsthand. I know your name. Your name is Agatha Tsubaki. Agatha Tsubaki, for some reason, it doesn't ring a bell. So, where is this place? This is inside a dungeon. A dungeon. What's a dungeon? A dungeon is a labyrinth where monsters inhabit. Monsters. What are monsters? Monsters are creatures that attack humans. Being bombarded with questions like this was getting a bit tiring. It's like a story where I've wandered into a video game world or something. Maybe I'm being pranked. I couldn't quite grasp what Agatha was saying. But pulling a prank like this would be too elaborate, it must be reality after all. As she said this, she was touching the walls of the dungeon. So, what's your name? She turned to me and asked. I'm Kiska. Kiska, huh? Hey, Kiska, that's a cool name. You might be my type. As soon as she said this with a mischievous look, I couldn't help but shudder. I honestly would prefer not to be liked by her. So, Agatha, do you remember anything else? I'm not sure, I remember words like this. But I can't recall who I am and what I was doing. Do you know anything about the parasitic sword puppeteer? The parasitic sword puppeteer. She repeated the words as if tracing them. I do know. And with that, she whispered. Is that so? I couldn't help but raise my voice. Wait a moment. When I say I know, it's more like I've heard the name somewhere before. So, I'm sorry. I don't really know any details. I see. But, yeah, the parasitic sword puppeteer. I feel like I've forgotten something important about it, but I'm sorry. I still can't remember. What could that important thing be? Perhaps if that memory held the key to turning the parasitic sword puppeteer back into a human, that would be convenient. If I could be certain of that, I would want to help her recover her memories. More importantly, Kiska, there's no use staying here forever. Let's move forward. You're right. So, with her leading the way, we continued through the dungeon. Meanwhile, I was thinking, is it really the right decision to continue conquering the dungeon with her like this? While I had a hopeful expectation that if her memory returned, we might learn something about the puppeteer, I had no idea about how to restore someone else's memory. Even if her memory did return, there was no guarantee she would know how to turn the puppeteer into a human. I whispered quietly, it might be better to rely on Vampire Judite. Agatha turned and asked, did you say something? But I shook my head to deny it. If Agatha was suffering from amnesia, there was almost no chance she would attack me even if I contacted Vampire Judite. So, relying on Vampire Judite seemed like the most certain option. I quietly solidified my plan for the future. Chapter 53 Meeting the Vampire Judite. Having decided to rely on Vampire Judite, I continued through the dungeon with Agatha. Agatha, could you stay quiet for a while here? I said. Sure, I understand. Agatha nodded and pressed herself against the wall, trying to hide. As we turned the corner in the corridor, a werewolf was prowling. This is going to be tough. If we can't get past that monster, we won't reach where Vampire Jut is. My only skill at the moment is provocation, and I don't have any weapons. In this situation, it's even difficult to take down a single monster. Agatha has amnesia, so she's not in a condition to fight either. This might be a dead end. Wait, there might be a way through this. I thought of a good idea and immediately spoke to Agatha. Hey, Agaya, can you use the item box? I remembered that when Agatha and I conquered the dungeon together before, she used the item box. Item box. What's that? It's a skill you can use, Agatha. It allows you to store various weapons and food items freely. Even though she had lost her memory, she shouldn't have lost her skills. With that in mind, I tried to convince Agatha. Wait. Could this be it? Suddenly, Agatha created a magic circle floating in front of her. That's right, I remembered a similar phenomenon occurring when Agatha used the item box. Is there any weapon in that item box? I could really use a sword right now. Let me see. Is this it? As she said this, Agatha pulled a shining, pale blue greatsword from the item box. I remembered that Agaya had used this sword before. Please, could you lend me that sword? Sure, I don't mind. Thank you. I received the greatsword from Agatha. It's quite heavy, but for some reason, just by holding it, I felt a surge of power welling up from somewhere within me. All right, with a sword in hand, I might be able to defeat monsters. I'm a bit uneasy because I haven't acquired the swordsmanship skill yet, but I should do my best. Agatha, please stay hidden there for a while. Okay, I understand. Once Agatha agreed, I leapt into the corridor with determination. Hey, you little monster. Come at me. First, I used provocation on the werewolf. The angry werewolf let out a roar and charged relentlessly. All right, I've successfully lured its attack. Now, just a counterattack. With a swift motion, the greatsword sliced through the werewolf's body in a straight line. I was surprised to find that I had defeated it in a single strike. This wasn't my own power. Maybe it was all thanks to this sword that I could take it down so easily. Amazing. Amazing. Kiska, you're amazing. To defeat such a powerful monster so easily. Agatha approached, jumping for joy. No, it's not me. It's all thanks to your sword, Agatha. It's not my power. That's not true. It's your power. To take it down so effortlessly, Kiska, you're so dependable. I chuckled at Agatha's unusual praise. It really wasn't my power at all. We encountered several more monsters after that, but thanks to Agatha's sword, we effortlessly defeated them. I think it was around here. What are you looking for? Oh, I believe there should be a switch around here that opens a hidden passage. While I was thinking about this, I felt the sensation of pressing a button. Suddenly, the wall that appeared to be empty opened up, revealing a hidden passage with a rumbling sound. Wow, Kiska, you even know about secret passages. You're so knowledgeable. Well, yeah, I casually dismissed Agatha's praise. This hidden passage was something I had learned from Vampire Judite, so I didn't feel like it was much of an accomplishment on my part. Agatha, I'm planning to meet someone now, but there's something I want you to be careful about before we do. Something to be careful about. Yeah, this person is quite temperamental. If we anger her, it might end up with us being killed without much ado. We have to meet someone like that. Yeah, but she's very knowledgeable. As long as we handle the situation correctly, she should be able to help us. I see. I believe in you, Kiska. Agatha, with an anxious expression, still expressed her agreement. It seemed that she trusted me completely. Sometimes, I worried unnecessarily that trusting people so easily might lead to deception in the future. But at the moment, I was grateful that she followed my lead without resistance. So, what should I do when we meet that scary person? Oh, Agatha, you just need to stay quiet. In general, I'll handle it. I explained the precautions for meeting Vampire Judite. Hee. Why are you smiling like that? Since I had just mentioned meeting a scary person, it caught my attention that she was smiling. Well, it's just that Kiska, I'm really glad you're here, and I couldn't help but smile. If it bothers you, I'm sorry. No, I was just curious, no need to apologize. Well, perhaps this is better than being too nervous. From then on, we continued walking towards the location where Vampire Judite would likely be. Along the way, we encountered some monsters, but with Agatha's sword, we easily fended them off. I think she was around here. While thinking about this, I saw a figure in the distance. Is that Vampire Judite? I felt a little nervous. Vampire Judite was known to attack without hesitation if you made a wrong greeting. However, I had met Judite multiple times in different timelines, so I should be fine. Agatha, please wait here. Okay. I whispered to Agatha, making sure Vampire Judite couldn't hear us, and then approached where she was. Great and noble Vampire Judite-sama, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I knelt and bowed my head in greeting. If I greeted her with utmost formality, she should respond in kind. Then, I waited for her response. Ellipsis. I continued to wait, but there was no response. That's strange. In all our previous interactions, she had always responded. As I thought this, I lifted my head slightly. Hey, it was Agatha's voice. Unbelievably, she had moved ahead of me and was standing beside Vampire Judite. I felt the urge to shout, "Hey, what are you doing?" But if I did that, Judite might get angry and kill us. No, there might still be a way to salvage this situation. For now, I should apologize for the rudeness and then come up with an excuse. However, before I could say, "I apologize for the discourtesy," my words were drowned out by Agatha's voice. Agatha said something shocking to me. This person is already dead. Yes, Vampire Judite was already dead. Chapter 54. Praise me. It was evident to anyone that Vampire Judite was dead. Her body remained seated in the chair, but her head was detached from her neck and lay shattered on the floor. It was a gruesome sight. I had followed the advice of not lowering my head and avoiding eye contact when first interacting with Vampire Judite, which had led to me noticing her death a bit late. It's like she was killed by someone, Agatha commented as she looked at the corpse. She frowned as if she had seen something she wished she hadn't. No one would want to see a brutally murdered body. Yeah, it was unlikely that Vampire Judite had been killed by a dungeon-dwelling monster. One reason was that Vampire Judite was stronger than most monsters. Besides, the cut on her body was far too clean, as if it had been made by a blade. Furthermore, given that her body was still seated in the chair, it was highly probable that she hadn't noticed the presence of an enemy until just before her death. That would have required someone or something with the power to kill Vampire Judite so easily. But who could it be? I thought. Yet, I couldn't think of any possible suspects. First, Agatha had been with me the whole time, so it was impossible. Parasitic Sword Puppeteer was a huge monster. If such a creature had approached, Vampire Judite would have noticed. Even if she was to be killed, it would have been while she was still standing. Were there any other beings capable of challenging Vampire Judite in this dungeon? I had explored this dungeon multiple times, and I couldn't recall encountering such an entity. Hey, Kiska, what do we do now? Agatha asked with an anxious tone. Well, for now, we should consider leaving the dungeon, I replied. Now that we couldn't rely on Vampire Judite, our only option was to escape the dungeon using our own abilities. It would be more efficient to search for a way to turn Parasitic Sword Puppeteer into a human outside of the dungeon. The major concern was the possibility that the person who had attacked Vampire Judite might come after us. What was most frightening was that we had no idea of their motives. If it were a sadistic killer, they might have no reason at all to target us. After all, they had easily killed Judite, indicating they were incredibly powerful. If we were to engage in a fight, there was no doubt that we would end up dead. Filled Diamond. After that, Agatha and I worked silently to strengthen ourselves for dungeon conquest. First, I acquired the skill, swordsmanship, in a hidden room where I could obtain the Crystal of Wisdom. Then, we used another hidden room containing the Golden Living Armor, which allowed me to acquire a significant number of skill points. While I no longer had the Parasitic Sword Puppeteer, which had been helpful in my conquests, Agatha's newly equipped greatsword was easy to handle, and we successfully cleared the room with the Golden Living Armor. Kiska, I have a favor to ask. Is that okay? A favor? What is it? I want to fight alongside you, Kiska. Agatha made this declaration. Perhaps she felt sorry for leaving me to fight alone all this time. Is that so? Then, let's fight together. Huh, are you serious? Agatha was surprised, as if she hadn't expected her request to be accepted. Why are you so surprised? Because I thought you might say no. Well, if Agatha were a regular girl, I would likely have declined, but given her true identity as a hero, she was much stronger than me. If Agatha was willing to fight with me, that would be a tremendous source of strength. In that case, let's start your training, Agatha. Sure, I'm ready. She nodded energetically. Look, Kiska, I defeated a monster. Agatha rejoiced over the defeated monster in front of her. I admired her as I watched. Even though she had lost her memory, her body seemed to remember how to fight, and she effortlessly defeated the monsters. Truly, she was like a hero, and her movements were more refined than mine. Hey, Kiska, praise me. Good job, good job. I patted her head as I spoke, and her face relaxed. By the way, I had returned the greatsword I borrowed from Agatha, and now she was using it. In exchange, I was using a one-handed sword that I had taken from the Golden Living Armor. All right, let's continue forward like this. Yeah, with Agatha fighting alongside me, our fighting force had effectively doubled. Our relationship was also going quite smoothly. With this momentum, I thought we might even be able to defeat the dungeon boss. At that moment, I was being a bit too optimistic. Chapter 55 Bath. After that, dungeon exploration with Agatha proceeded smoothly. With Agatha and me working together, I felt like we could defeat any monsters that came our way. Shall we use this hideout today? Yeah, sure. I pointed to one of the hideouts that I had learned about from the vampire jut. Battling monsters was indeed tiring, and while we could push further into the dungeon, it was best not to overexert ourselves, especially since Agatha was with me. Wow, it's spacious in here. Agatha, upon entering the hideout, commented on its size. Indeed, it was larger than the other hideouts we had come across. It had a sofa, tables, chairs, and other furniture. There was even a restroom. When I curiously looked inside, I found a slime living there. The facilities here were surprisingly similar to a regular home. In retrospect, Judite had been quite particular about things, such as drinking blood from teacups. It was likely that she had taken great care to prepare this hideout. Oh, right, we need to prepare some food. Saying that, Agatha got up from the sofa and took out some monster meat from her item box. Agatha, you must be tired. I'll handle it, so you can rest. No, I don't mind at all. Let me help. She insisted on helping, so we prepared the meal together. This was the second time we were spending time in the hideout and the second time we were preparing a meal, so Agatha efficiently assisted in the food preparation. Although the cooking was quite simple, using magic stones from the monsters to start a fire, we placed the monster meat on the iron plate provided in the hideout. Then, we seasoned it with salt and pepper, and since we had found an area with medicinal herbs today, we decided to cook those as well. Medicinal herbs were known for their healing properties, and they were commonly used in both healing and culinary applications. So, we decided to give it a try. This might be quite delicious. After taking a bite, Agatha remarked. Is it? I thought it might be mediocre since the seasoning is quite simple. No, it's not like that. Being able to enjoy a hearty meal like this makes me feel pretty happy. Saying that, Agatha smiled. Seeing her enjoying the meal, it had an inexplicable effect on me. While it was a common dish I had eaten many times before, today it tasted better than usual. Having a bath here would make it perfect. Agatha, who had just finished eating and was relaxing on the sofa, suddenly brought this up. Certainly, the hideout had a bed and a sofa, and the only thing missing was a bath. When I was exploring the dungeon alone with Puppeteer, I didn't bother with baths, just focusing on conquering the dungeon. But when I spent time with the vampire Judite, how did we manage? Oh, now that I think about it, there might be a bath. As I reminisced, I vaguely remembered taking a few baths with Judite. Really? Agatha's eyes sparkled as she eagerly asked. Well, I'm not sure if there's one in this hideout, so don't get your hopes up too much. I said that while exploring the hideout. Ah, here's a door. When I opened it, I found a wooden bathtub. Yay, a bath. Agatha peered in from behind, exclaiming in excitement. To prepare the bath, I needed to use water attribute magic stones and fire attribute magic stones. Magic stones extracted from monsters generally came in 4 types: light, fire, water, and wind. Light attribute magic stones were used for lighting, fire attribute magic stones for starting fires and heating, water attribute magic stones for generating water and ice. Wind attribute magic stones were used as a power source for various tools by generating wind. So, for a bath or refrigerator, water attribute magic stones were indispensable. With that in mind, I began preparing the bath using magic stones. Agatha, you can go in first. Once I had finished preparing the bath, I told Agatha this. Oh, no, that's okay. You should go first, Kiska. No, you don't need to hold back. Come on, go ahead. If you say so, then I'll go first. Agatha, still a bit reluctant, agreed and went to the bath. With nothing in particular to do while Agatha was in the bath, I thought I'd sit on the sofa and relax. Ah, just as I sat down on the sofa, a loud scream came from the bathroom. What's wrong, Agatha? I panicked and rushed to open the bathroom door. There, I found Agatha collapsed on the floor. Oh, the water was just hotter than I expected, so it startled me. Oh, I see. What a relief. I had thought something more serious had happened due to her scream. By the way, Kiska, it might be a little embarrassing if you're looking. Ah, sorry. I quickly averted my gaze. I hadn't been intentionally staring, but it was true that I had seen more than I should have. Agatha's delicate figure, and her not overly generous but seemingly soft breasts, and other private parts had come into view. Well, even if Kiska sees me, it doesn't make me feel bad. What a mysterious thing to say. I wanted to ask what she meant by that, but I didn't voice my curiosity. Maybe I just misjudged the water temperature. To change the topic, I said that for now. It was probably due to the fact that I had made a mistake in adjusting the bath's temperature using the fire attribute magic stone. If you use the water attribute magic stone, you should be able to get the perfect water temperature. Oh, can I ask you a favor? I don't really understand how to use magic stones. Of course, that's fine. I nodded and picked up the water attribute magic stone. By manipulating the magical power contained in the water attribute magic stone, you could create a cooling effect. If you put the magic stone in the bath in that state, it should reach just the right temperature. However, it wouldn't immediately cool the water, so you needed to wait for a while. The waiting time was quite awkward because, if you looked to the side, there was Agatha, naked. I tried not to be conscious of it, but I couldn't help but be aware. Hey, Kiska, what? She suddenly spoke to me, and I stammered in response. Since you saw me naked, you must be feeling excited, right? She hit the bullseye. So what if I am? However, I couldn't just admit it and put up a bit of resistance, so I replied in a nonchalant manner. If Kiska wants to see, you can look more if you'd like. She whispered softly in my ear. In an instant, something within me shattered. I turned around and gazed at Agatha's naked body. Placing my hand on her shoulder, I replied, "You don't care what happens." In response, Agatha nodded, leaving me wondering, is this really okay? I feel anxious about what I just said. What should I do now? Maybe I should steal a kiss. I pondered these thoughts while looking at her lips. I noticed her lips were trembling slightly. Moreover, her face turned bright red, and it was clear that she was extremely nervous. What am I doing? I thought, trying to regain my composure. Why am I attempting such a foolish act? So, I lightly pinched her cheek and said, "Don't tease adults too much." Ah, she made a strange sound, and by then, the water was already cold enough. That's it, Kiska. Good night. Yeah, good night. I lay down on the sofa after putting Agatha to bed. Despite being tired from our dungeon exploration, I couldn't fall asleep. Perhaps it was because of the strange atmosphere in the bath with Agatha earlier. No, that was a part of it, but there was another significant reason. I had recalled that nightmare from back then. When I was still new to dungeon exploration, Agatha had tried to attack me. I rejected her, and she fell into despair and took her own life. Now, I couldn't help but worry that as soon as I fell asleep, Agatha might come over and attack me again. If that happened, I'd probably accept it. After all, if I were to reject her and she ended up taking her own life again, I might lose my mind. Besides, I had found her cute from the moment I laid eyes on her. There was nothing in my heart that I found more beautiful than Agatha. Our relationship was also excellent. So, there was no reason to refuse. I kept telling myself that, all the while tormented. As a result, I couldn't fall asleep, and before I knew it, it was time to wake up. Yes, in the end, Agatha didn't come to attack me. Kiska, now that I look closely, you have dark circles under your eyes. Could it be that you couldn't sleep properly? Oh, yeah, that's true. I was thinking about how to conquer the dungeon. I see. But it's not good to proceed while you're still tired. Maybe you should get some more sleep. Yeah, you're right. Let me sleep a bit longer. Sure, that's fine. Good night. As I lay down on the bed, I contemplated my situation. This wasn't right. I felt like I was getting all worked up for nothing just because a beautiful girl was sleeping nearby. What an embarrassing delusion. Yay. Look, Kiska, I did it. Agatha expressed her joy by bouncing up and down after defeating the monster. Then, she came over to me and stared, waiting for something. This was her way of asking to be petted. Agatha, you're amazing. Hee hee. When I petted her, she relaxed and enjoyed it, much like a small animal. However, how did we end up all the way to the room with the boss so quickly? Yeah, it's really surprising. While saying that, we both looked up at the large door where the boss was supposed to be. Kiska, are we going to enter the boss's room now? No, there's just one place I'd like to check first. A place you'd like to check? I was certain there should be a switch around here that leads to a hidden room. There it is. Wow, a hidden room in a place like this. Kiska, you know everything, you're amazing. Come on, you're praising me too much. If you keep complimenting me like that, I'll get full of myself. By the way, my spirits were quite high too. Oh, but Kiska, you really are amazing. I've never met anyone more amazing than you. You forget you have amnesia. You can't remember meeting anyone besides me, yet you say that. Oh, right. I have amnesia, so I don't know anyone other than Kiska. You forgetful one. While we bantered, we reached the location where the treasure chest was placed. Inside this chest was an item called Crystal of Wisdom, which grants a random skill when opened. When you open this chest, you get a skill. What should we do? Agatha can open it if you want. I had opened the Crystal of Wisdom chest and acquired the skill Swordsmanship. Ethically speaking, it would be Agatha's turn next. I'm good. Kiska, you can open it. As expected, Agatha offered to let me open the chest. You don't have to hold back. It's not about holding back. I just have this feeling that I can't acquire any more skills beyond this point. Is that so? Certainly, it's established that one can have up to 5 skills. Agatha is a hero, so it's not unusual for her to have reached the limit. Well, in that case, I'm sorry, but I'll go ahead and open it. Yeah, you don't need to hold back at all. With that said, I opened the chest. Now, I wonder what kind of skill I'll acquire. Obtain the skill, Vow. What kind of skill is Vow? What kind of skill did you get? It's a skill that won't be useful in battle. Well, I don't know what the skill does, but it's safe to say it won't be useful in combat. Oh, that's a shame. Well, it's random, so there's nothing to be done. Honestly, I'm satisfied with the skills I currently have. With Agatha by my side, we should be able to defeat the boss without any issues. Chapter 56. Who was there? Alright, I'm going to open the door. Are you ready? Yes. Seeming a bit nervous, Agatha's response was barely audible. I made a final check in my mind. I had raised both my skills, Swordsmanship, and Provocation, to level 3. Since Vow was a skill without levels, it remained unchanged. My equipment was a one-handed sword from the Golden Living Armor. It was very easy to use. I had also conveyed a winning strategy to Agatha. Alright, I haven't redone anything. Let's go, Agatha. Saying so, I opened the door. Kugu. I heard the cry of the monster. It was the great centipede Rumoas, an S-rank monster, a giant centipede with potent venom. It's alright, I've defeated this monster once before. So, I should be able to defeat it again. Agatha, be careful of the poison that monster releases. Yeah, got it. After her response, Agatha leapt away from me, just as we had planned. Hey, you monster. Let's dance together. Shaw. Rumoas, the giant centipede under the influence of Provocation, charged at me, and I deflected its attack with my sword. I see, you're tough, huh? The scales of Rumoas were as hard as steel. Thanks to that, my attempts to cut through them with my sword were futile as they were just repelled. However, I couldn't afford to be intimidated. I'm not impressed with this level of challenge. I used Provocation again and deflected Rumoas's next charge with my sword. The clash produced repeated metallic sounds. Then, suddenly, Rumoas shot something at me. What Rumoas had shot was poison, and I tried to intercept it with my sword, making sure it didn't touch my body. However, the sword that came into contact with the poison didn't fare well. Just like when the sword touched Magna, it quickly melted away with a sizzling sound. This was bad, I had lost my weapon. Kiska. Agatha was shouting, her eyes expressing deep concern for me. Every inch of her body seemed to be filled with the desire to rush out and help me immediately. Agatha, don't come to me. So, I said that to stop Agatha. But, trust me, that's why you need to do what you have to do. Saying so, Agatha bit her lower lip and nodded. To defeat Rumoas, the giant centipede, it was not the right time for Agatha to join me. I understood her feelings, but for now, she needed to hold back. Hey, if you want to kill me, take a good look and aim carefully. I used provocation once again to divert Rumoas's attention. It hurt to have lost my weapon, but all I needed to do now was avoid its attacks. Pshaw. After that, I continued to dodge Rumoas's attacks relentlessly. Dodging and dodging again, and then, during one of the attacks I managed to dodge. Kiska, sorry for the wait. Agatha's voice echoed. Agatha, go for it. I encouraged her with all my might. I had taught her a technique she had shown me before, even though she had lost her memory. This technique took some time to activate. So, I drew the monster's attention by dodging its attacks relentlessly while she prepared to launch her attack. The name of that technique was Holy Sword Technique, Dragon Slayer. It was a finishing move that could bury any enemy in a single strike. With a burst of brilliance, she moved in a straight line, slashing as she went. The moment her great sword touched Rumoas's tough scales, they were effortlessly sliced through. Kugu. Rumoas let out its final groan, lost its strength, and fell. At the same time, Agatha exhaled with a phew, and relaxed. There was nothing left in her path. Confirmed the defeat of the monster. You have earned skill points. I felt a sense of accomplishment as the message window appeared, confirming its defeat. Agatha, you did it. With joy, I turned toward her. Phew. For some reason, tears welled up in her eyes. Hey, what's wrong? Crying at a time when you should be happy isn't normal. I was puzzled, not understanding why she was crying. Well, when I suddenly felt relieved, the tears just started flowing. It's because I'm so happy that I could be of help to you, so, these are tears of happiness, but is it weird? No, it's not weird at all. Knowing that it wasn't because of something sad, I felt relieved. Hee, can I ask you for that usual thing? Yeah, sure. Saying that, I gently stroked her head. You did great, Agatha. Yeah, I did my best. Saying that, she smiled. I thought it was a beautiful smile. I wanted to protect this smile of hers. It seemed that I had become quite attached to her by conquering the dungeon together. I thought of myself as a simple person objectively. Oh, Kiska, there's a sword. Suddenly, just as she said, a single sword was thrust into the ground. It was a sword with a red blade, the blazing sword. I remembered obtaining the same one as a reward for clearing the Katarov dungeon when we defeated the boss together with Puppeteer. Are you sure you want me to use this sword? I asked Agatha as she tried to hand the sword to me. Yeah, I have this great sword, and it's probably better if you use this one, Kiska. In that case, I'll gratefully accept it. Oh, what's that light over there? Agatha pointed, and there was a shining teleportation circle on the floor. It must have appeared after defeating the boss. It's a teleportation circle. If you touch it, you can exit the dungeon. Really? Let's go, Kiska. Yeah, that's right. Agatha seemed to be more excited than usual. Well, she had just defeated a tough boss, so it was only natural for her to be in high spirits. While thinking about that, as I was about to follow Agatha, I heard a swooshing sound. I also heard the sound of splattering blood. Huh. Agatha said that as she looked at her own arm. Her right arm was missing from the middle. Aha. A split second later, Agatha screamed in intense pain. Hey, Agatha, what just happened? I had no idea. All I knew was that something had caused Agatha's right arm to be severed. I had to help Agatha, that was the only thing on my mind as I reached out my hand to her. Thud. I felt a shock running through my body. Ouch. I groaned as I rolled on the ground. I realized that someone had kicked me. There was a third party present in this situation, someone other than Agatha and me, and that person was attacking us. Who are you? I shouted as I turned to confirm the identity of the third party. And there, standing before me was Chapter 57 Reset. This elusive figure had a knack for appearing suddenly and swiftly vanquishing anyone in its path. It seemed like an embodiment of intense hatred and envy, perpetually provoked by something. It was, indeed, the one responsible for beheading the vampire Judite. Judite was a vampire, so just cutting off the head wouldn't kill her. It took careful pounding to crush her brain. Crushing the brain into a pulp, it finally realized that it had killed the vampire. Afterward, it searched for the next target and slowly roamed the dungeon. And then, it found its next target. That's not fair. It had a slimy, clingy tone. It was glaring at us with sharp eyes. Why is it always you who gets the good end of the deal? Why am I always stuck with the bad role? It cried out in that way. Agatha. In the midst of this, I was simply confused. Yes, the one who had severed Agatha's arm and kicked me away was Agatha herself. Agatha, who had her arm cut off, was still writhing in intense pain. There were two Agatha in front of me. What's going on? I didn't understand. Who are you? I asked, but I wasn't even sure which Agatha I was asking. Perhaps I was asking both of them. I am Agatha Tsubaki. The one who answered was the Agatha who had kicked me. Why are there two of the same person? As I asked this question, Agatha gave a self-deprecating smile and pointed to the Agatha with her arm severed. This one is my imposter. It pretends to be me and tries to steal everything from me. Since I didn't quite understand, I let out a sigh-like breath. From the perspective of Black Agatha, to avoid confusion, I decided to call the Agatha who had suddenly appeared Black Agatha. Black Agatha was the real one, and Agatha, the one with lost memories, was the fake. I considered hearing Agatha's side of the story and looked at her. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Why am I in two places at once? Agatha was holding her head in confusion. Right, Agatha had lost her memory. Even if she was called a fake, she couldn't argue back. She was the most confused person here. Fine, let's erase all the inconvenient memories and start over. It's truly like a field of flowers in your mind. I'm getting fed up with you. I don't know even if you say that. You not knowing is probably your own fault. I'm getting exasperated. That's why I don't know. Black Agatha and Agatha were exchanging words. Kiska, please, help me. Agatha pleaded for help, clinging to me. I wanted to live up to her expectations, but even if she asked for help, I had no idea what I could do to help her. Agatha. I suddenly noticed that she was trembling beside me. Well, of course she would be. I'm sure I would be very scared if I were in her shoes. So, with the thought that I could alleviate her anxiety even just a little, I gently pulled her close. That's not fair. Black Agatha muttered bitterly. It's not fair. You're always sucking up and being coddled, while you push the unpleasant roles onto me. Always, 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 using me like that. I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. I've put up with it for so long, but I'm done. I would have been better off on that side too. Because I couldn't make out a part of what she said. But more importantly, my attention shifted to something else. She was crying. Black Agatha was shedding big tears and expressing something. I didn't mean that. Agatha tried to deny something. I had to help. Honestly, I didn't quite understand what had happened between the two of them. What was right and what was wrong? What was just and what was unjust? I had no clue. But when I saw a girl crying right in front of me, I knew I wanted to help. Among the emotions that had sprouted within me, that was the one thing I was sure of. So, unconsciously, I reached out my hand. I can't take it anymore. Black Agatha muttered, tears falling. If it's going to be like this, maybe it's better to just disappear, in a world like this, right? This was bad. Black Agatha was about to do something. I didn't know what it was, but my instincts were screaming that it was really, really bad. Stop it, Agatha. When I shouted, it was already too late. With a murmur, she spoke these words. Less than reset greater than. Chapter 58 Observer. Save and reset. This is a skill I received from Agatha. I've used this skill to redo time over and over again. But when I suddenly calm down and think about it, I realize that I don't really understand this skill at all. I've only felt like I've mastered save and reset, but do I truly understand how to use this skill in its true sense? Did she just say, reset, now? I remembered what Black Agatha muttered. Instantly, I recalled, save and reset, in my mind. I had thought that, save and reset, was one skill with two parts, save, and, reset, and it was thanks to these two skills that I could return from death. However, when Black Agatha mentioned reset, I began to consider the possibility that my understanding might be significantly wrong. Could it be that save and reset are separate skills with their own unique abilities? And did she only activate the reset ability? So, what is the ability that reset possesses? I tried to find out when Black Agatha mentioned reset. Suddenly, the world was engulfed in darkness. Oh, my consciousness awakens. In an instant, I felt bewildered by the situation before me. What stretched out before me was an eternal darkness. There was no ground beneath my feet, and there was no sky. I couldn't even find a horizon. What is this? I remember Black Agatha mentioning reset. What happened after that? Before I knew it, I found myself in a world of nothing. Hey, is anyone here? I tried shouting, but my voice was swallowed by the darkness. It seemed like I had wandered into a world with nothing. However, I couldn't just stand still. For now, I should try walking and see if I can find anything. How many hours had passed since then, wandering around? No matter how far I walked, the scenery remained unchanged. Since there was no sun, I had no way of knowing how much time had passed since I arrived in this world. Oh, I finally found a place. Were you here? Huh. Suddenly, I heard a voice, so I turned around, and there was something there. I could only describe it as something. That's because I didn't have the words to linguistically explain what had just spoken to me. This something had a shape that was far removed from anything I knew. Therefore, I couldn't explain it in any way. At best, I could say that it spoke like a human, but it wasn't human. It was also far removed from all forms of life and all forms of matter. You have a surprised look on your face. Something spoke. Oh, there's just been so much happening, and my head is in a whirl. Indeed, you've been through a lot recently. Thanks to that, I've been entertained. I gave an ambiguous response because I didn't quite understand what was being said. So, where is this place, and who are you? That's a good question. Something said so. This is the aftermath of a destroyed world, and who am I? Well, I can't think of a good word to describe me. The aftermath of a destroyed world. What does that mean? So the world has been destroyed. Yeah, that's right. Look, there's nothing here, right? The world was destroyed, so nothing has continued. I see. Certainly, describing this place as a world of nothingness seems like the most appropriate expression. You don't seem too shocked, huh? The world has been destroyed. Normally, I think people would be shocked when they hear something like that. Well, the story is so grand that it hasn't quite sunk in. I see. If you put it that way, it makes sense. Nevertheless, it's strange that I still have consciousness despite the world being destroyed. Are you a god? I suddenly posed that question to the entity before me. If that entity were a god, it seemed plausible. The something in front of me was supernatural, almost godlike. No, unlike a god, I'm not all-knowing or all-powerful. It would be presumptuous of me to call myself a god. I guess you can call me an observer. An observer. Yeah, it's like my role is to observe the world. I see. I didn't quite understand, and I felt like even if I delved deeper with questions, I wouldn't grasp it, so I decided not to inquire further. So, why is my consciousness still intact even though the world has been destroyed? That's because you exist outside of causality. Do you have any recollection? Recollection. I didn't understand what causality was, but perhaps it meant that I could maintain my consciousness thanks to having save and reset. Is Agatha the cause of the world's destruction? Yeah, that's right. She rewrote causality. I see. This conversation with the observer was filled with things I didn't understand, and I was getting perplexed. Now, let me ask you. Do you want to save the world? The observer said this with a more serious tone. As an observer, it pains me that the world remains destroyed like this. So, I'm thinking of entrusting the fate of this world to you. What do you say? Well, what's with that response? You don't seem enthusiastic. I'd like to save the world if I can, but can I really do something like that? Saving the world is such a monumental task, and honestly, I don't think I'm up to the challenge. It's up to you whether you can do it or not, but this is a bit tricky. Alright, maybe you should try changing your perspective like this. As if the observer had come up with a great idea, and spoke. Do you want to save Agatha Tsubaki? If that's the case, then yes. Suddenly, I recalled the tears that Black Agatha had shed. I wanted to know why she was crying, and my feelings towards the non-Black Agatha were also positive. I didn't even understand why there were two Agatha in the first place. That's a good answer. So, I'll entrust the fate of the world to you. When the observer said that, and began some kind of work, I had absolutely no understanding of what it was. There are two important points to keep in mind. Your save and reset is still active, but be careful how you use it. The other is that if it's determined that the world has been saved, I will forcibly return you to the original timeline. Understood. I nodded, but I still couldn't quite grasp the reality of the observer's words. Well then, go back to a specific time, precisely 100 years before the world was destroyed. The observer didn't have hands, but I think if it did, it would have waved its hand. It seemed like I was going somewhere from here. Oh, when I came to, I was standing on the ground, basking in the sunlight. It seemed like I needed to start by figuring out where this place was. Chapter 59 Rank. I feel relieved as I look down and see solid ground beneath my feet. When I look up, the sun's rays are blinding. It seems like the world has not yet been destroyed. Hey, it's a dungeon returnee. Someone has cleared this dungeon. I turn towards the source of the voices. Village-like people are gazing at me. What does it mean that I am a dungeon returnee? Oh, looking down, I notice that I am standing on a pedestal, the one where the conqueror of the dungeon is supposed to stand. In my right hand, I am holding the reward for clearing the Katarov dungeon, the blazing sword. It appears that I was transported immediately after stepping on the Katarov dungeon teleportation array. However, Agatha is not beside me. It seems like I'm the only one who managed to exit the dungeon. I feel a strange sense of loss about that. Hey, what's your name? Suddenly, one of the villagers addresses me. I was taken aback by the question about my name. There shouldn't have been any villagers in Katarov village who didn't know me. I had been discriminated against because of this annoying silver hair. I'm Kiska. Kiska, wow, we've had some incredible adventurers here. Saying that, the villager casually pats my shoulder. Their expression is cheerful, not the response typically given to a discriminated Alkis person. Suddenly, I recall the words of the observer, go back to 100 years ago. Could it be that I've really come back to 100 years ago? Hey, did you say something just now? If I've truly been transported to a world 100 years in the past, it must mean that the fate of this world now lies in my hands. However, even if I'm told to save the world, I have no idea what to do. Maybe I should set some more immediate goals. Oh, it's nothing. Instead, could you guide me to the Adventurers Guild? Oh, of course, no problem. First, let's go see Agatha. If it's 100 years ago, she shouldn't be sealed yet. To do that, I should first go to the Adventurers Guild and gather some information. Alright, the Adventurers Guild is here. Farewell, hero. The villager who guided me to the Adventurers Guild says so and waves. Thank you for guiding me. Calling me a hero is a bit exaggerated. With a wry smile, I express my gratitude. The location of the Adventurers Guild was the same as it was 100 years ago, but the exterior of the building was different. For now, I enter and approach the receptionist behind the counter. What can I help you with? I have something I'd like to discuss. I asked this at the guild's reception desk, thinking that the guild receptionist might know something about Agatha. A discussion, you say? Very well. However, before that, may I see your adventurer card? An adventurer card. I've heard that all adventurers have one, but since I have no achievements as an adventurer, I don't have one. I don't have one. So, are you saying you're planning to start working as an adventurer from now on? Well, something like that. In that case, let's start by creating an adventurer card. Please fill out the necessary information here. The receptionist hands me a document. I start filling out the form as indicated on the document. First, my name. Then, my occupation. I suppose my occupation would be a swordsman. Next, there's a section for rank. How can I check my own rank? In that case, you should check your own status screen. It's written below your name. If there's nothing written, you're a novice. Occasionally, even beginners start from bronze. I wonder if it said that on the status screen. With that in mind, I display my own status. Open angle bracket Kiska close angle bracket. Rank, Platinum. It's true. It says, Platinum. I don't think this kind of notation was there before. It appears to be Platinum. What? Platinum is impossible. Most beginners are novices at best, and some may start from bronze. Even if you say that. In reality, it says, Platinum. If it's true, then please show me your status screen. Well, alright. With that, I tamper with my status screen so that only my name and rank are visible, and then I show it to the receptionist. It really says Platinum. She mutters as if she's seen something unbelievable. Is Platinum really that rare? It's not just rare. I'm sorry, but you really are a beginner adventurer, right? Certainly, I may be a beginner as an adventurer, but I do have some achievements. I have cleared the Katarov dungeon, if that counts. What? You cleared the uncharted Katarov dungeon. In that case, it makes sense that you're Platinum. Well, I don't think it's that impressive since I didn't conquer the dungeon all by myself. Is Platinum really that great to be surprised about? What? Could it be that you don't know? Okay, about ranks. While feeling somewhat pressured by the enthusiastic receptionist, I listened to her explanation. Apparently, there are 8 ranks for adventurers, from lowest to highest: Novice, Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Platinum, Diamond, and Master. So, Platinum is considered to be a pretty high rank, ranking 3rd from the top. Novices are those without combat abilities, so the vast majority of humanity are novices. If you have the power to defeat even a single monster, you can be promoted to Bronze. Therefore, generally speaking, you're not considered an adventurer unless you're at least Bronze or higher. I see. Before I was exiled to the depths of the dungeon, I was just a farmer without combat abilities. At that time, my status probably said, Novice, since it had nothing written on it. Platinum rank means you're recognized as being in the top 0.1% or higher. By the way, this 0.1% includes Bronze through Master, excluding novices. So, Platinum is really amazing. This is the first time I've ever seen someone with a Platinum rank. With that explanation, it does sound quite impressive. But there are even higher ranks, Diamond and Master. Platinum is just the 3rd rank from the top. Hearing that, it doesn't sound all that special. No, Diamond is the strongest rank, and only the top 0.01% can achieve it. As for Master, it's a legendary rank where only the top 10 individuals in the world can hold it. Normal people can't achieve it. I see. With that explanation, Platinum sounds impressive after all. Anyway, Platinum is incredibly impressive. Do you understand? Well, kind of. Honestly, even though I'm told that, I don't feel particularly strong. Chapter 60 Trouble. So, I have something to discuss. After finishing the adventurer card, I said to the receptionist, Yes, what would you like to discuss? I'm looking for an adventurer named Agatha. Do you happen to know her? Initially, I came to the Adventurers Guild to investigate Agatha's whereabouts. I'm sorry, but no, I've never heard of her. 100 years later, the vampire Judite mentioned that Agatha was the hero who defeated the Demon Lord, so I thought she might be somewhat famous. It seems I was mistaken. In that case, do you happen to know anything about the hero? Even if she doesn't know Agatha, perhaps she knows something about the hero. Could it be that you, Kiska-san, are interested in participating in the war? It would be extremely reassuring to have someone of platinum rank participating in the war. What exactly is this war about? Well, it's the war between the hero army and the Demon Lord army in the Ariane region to the west. I recalled hearing about it. A massive war took place 100 years ago between the Demon Lord army and the hero army. I remember that the hero army had a decisive victory in that war, leading to the defeat of the Demon Lord. The war was named after the battle site, the Battle of Ariane. So, this war is currently ongoing. To participate in the war, what should I do? Given that Agatha, a hero, is highly likely to participate in this war, joining the war myself might be the quickest way. Well, I believe they were recruiting soldiers. The receptionist began searching through her documents for more information. It seemed like it might take a bit of time, and while waiting, I heard a loud noise as a large door opened and closed. I heard there's an adventurer here who cleared the Katarov dungeon. Someone please step forward. I turned around to see a female knight in armor standing there. An adventurer who cleared the Katarov dungeon, that's me. I know you're here. Just come forward and reveal yourself. Her intense expression was overwhelming, and I found myself hesitating about whether to step forward or not. Should I keep my distance and stay uninvolved? Ah, this is the adventurer who cleared the Katarov dungeon. The one who pointed at me and said that was the villager who had guided me to the Adventurers Guild. The villager stood beside the female knight, and it was probably him who had guided the female knight to the Adventurers Guild. It's you. Why didn't you identify yourself right away? The female knight stood before me and spoke with an intimidating expression. I was in a hurry. I thought to myself that I should come up with a better excuse, but I couldn't think of one, so there was nothing I could do. Well, fine. We don't have a moment to lose. Come this way. With an uncompromising attitude, the female knight forcefully grabbed my arm. I tried to resist, but her grip was too strong. I couldn't resist at all. As a result, I was dragged along and left the Adventurers Guild behind. Where she brought me was the entrance of the Katarov dungeon. There, a group of about 6 men and women were gathered. The group varied in age, height, and appearance, but there was one common feature. Without exception, every one of them had weapons that looked formidable. In other words, this group must be adventurers. I brought him, the adventurer who cleared the Katarov dungeon. Saying so, the female knight presented me to everyone. Is this the one? Doesn't look particularly strong to me. But it's reassuring to have someone who knows about dungeons. Hey, what's your name? A tall and handsome man with a gentle look in his eyes spoke up. I'm Kiska. Kiska, I actually have something I really want to ask you. Well, what is it that you want to ask? I didn't really have the time to entertain their request, as I had other important matters to attend to. Are you trying to tell me we should trust this guy without knowing his situation? The one who interjected was the female knight who had brought me here. Canaria, calm down. If we want his cooperation, we need to gain his trust first. I'm sorry, I overreacted. The female knight lowered her head and stepped back. Based on their behavior, I wondered if this man was the leader of this group. All right, Kiska, I have a favor to ask, and I need you to keep this confidential. Understood. Please remember, Kiska, we've been pursuing someone, and we've tracked them to this Katarov dungeon. We know that this person sought refuge in this dungeon. That's why we were looking for someone with knowledge of the dungeon's interior, like you. I see. It made sense that I would be more knowledgeable about the structure of the Katarov dungeon than anyone else. Could you tell me more about this person you're pursuing? I asked, curious about who would run into a dungeon like this. Ordinary people would be killed by monsters if they entered a dungeon. So why would someone willingly enter a monster's lair? While I pondered these questions, I waited for their response. The tall man spoke in a calm tone and revealed the shocking answer. The Demon Lord. I was rendered speechless by the shocking word. Who exactly are you people? I asked hesitantly. I couldn't help but imagine who the people were that had come this far in pursuit of the Demon Lord. If I say, the hero and his companions, would that make sense to you? It seemed I had been unwittingly drawn into something incredibly troublesome. Chapter 61 Self-Introduction. The man introduced himself as Hero Eligen. It was a familiar name. In the world of the future, he was celebrated as the hero who defeated the Demon Lord. And now, he stood right before me. According to their account, during the large-scale war between the Demon Lord's army and the hero's forces that took place in the Ariane region, known as the Battle of Ariane, the hero's party achieved a dramatic victory. However, they couldn't kill the Demon Lord. The defeated Demon Lord sought refuge deep within the Katarov dungeon to hide. Unfortunately, they lacked someone with detailed knowledge of the interior structure of the Katarov dungeon. After all, it was considered an S-rank dungeon, and no one had successfully cleared it. In their despair, they had just heard rumors about an adventurer who had conquered the Katarov dungeon. After searching extensively, they had finally found their way to me. So, Kiska, can we ask for your guidance? Saying this, Hero Elijin extended his hand. May I ask one question? Of course, feel free to ask anything. Do you happen to know someone by the name of Agatha? I don't know. Is she an acquaintance of yours? Hero Elijin responded immediately. He looked to his companions for any sign of recognition, but no one seemed to know. Well, actually, I'm on a missing person search. I see. I'm sorry if I can't meet your expectations. No, it's fine. If you don't know, then there's nothing you can do about it. So, sorry to rush you, but would you be willing to cooperate with us? Of course, we promise to provide appropriate compensation. Now, what should I do? Should I cooperate or not? My primary goal is to meet Agatha. As I pondered, I recalled the words of the vampire Judite. The demon lord was defeated by the hero Agatha. In other words, if I get closer to the demon lord, there's a high chance Agatha will appear sooner or later. I understand. Please let me assist you. Since they were chasing the demon lord, my cooperation would undoubtedly bring me closer to Agatha. Hoping that this would lead me to Agatha, I offered my help to them. Then we briefly introduced ourselves. Since we were about to dive into a high-difficulty dungeon together, it seemed essential to know a little about each other. I'm Kiska, a swordsman. I also have the provocation skill, which allows me to draw the attention of enemies. That's great. You could be a good evasion tank. Hero Elijin said that. An evasion tank was someone who could avoid enemy attacks while drawing their attention. I'd heard of it before but had never done it. Still, I didn't think it would be a problem. What's your rank, by the way? I'm a platinum rank. Platinum, huh? Then you won't be a burden to us. I breathed a sigh of relief at the knight's words. Thanks to my platinum rank, I wouldn't be underestimated. Well, let me introduce myself next, said Hero Elijin. First, he introduced himself as the main force of this party and the hope of humanity, Hero Elijin. His full name was Elijin Rastarna. He was the first prince of the Rastarna kingdom. Come to think of it, I had heard that Hero Elijin was a prince. I remembered that according to history, he would eventually become the king. It was a bit nerve-wracking to have someone of such high rank right in front of me. By the way, the Rastarna kingdom was a large country that included Katarov village in its territory. Of course, his profession was a hero. He fought with a sacred sword. He was the highest master rank. His rank was 7th in the hierarchy. Next was the introduction of the female knight who had dragged me from the Adventurers Guild. Her real name was Canaria Glissus. Her profession was a holy knight. She excelled in swordsmanship and healing magic. It seemed she also served as a royal guard. Her rank was diamond. Next was the dwarf named Gorgono. He wielded an axe. His profession was a warrior. Nice to meet ya, lad, he said, patting my shoulder. He seemed friendly. His rank was diamond. Next was a tall man cloaked in a long, eerie robe. The deep hood made it impossible to see his face. I'm Noct. Nice to meet you. The man introduced himself with words devoid of emotion. He's always like this. So, don't worry about it. Warrior Gorgono chimed in with a reassurance. Perhaps he was just shy. Surprisingly, his profession was a swordsman, despite the robe. I had assumed he was a mage due to his attire, but I was mistaken. He didn't reveal his rank. And then, there was one more person. May I speak? Niao may often be treated like a child because of my appearance, but, as you can see, Niao is much older than you. Please, don't treat Niao like a child. A visibly young girl began her introduction. I didn't understand the reason, but she seemed upset about something. Sweetheart, we're having an important discussion right now, so it would be great if you could go over there. Oh, by any chance, did you get separated from your mom? I asked while wondering why such a young girl would be in a place like this. If she were lost, it was important to find her mother quickly. Wah, this person treated Niao like a child. The girl cried while clinging to Hero Elijin. Hey, bothering the hero is not a good idea. This child may look like this, but she's actually an older elf than us. So, please don't tease her too much, Hero Elijin explained. An elf, huh? I couldn't see it well because her hair obscured it, but her ear tips were pointed. I remembered hearing that elves are long-lived and slow to grow. I apologize for not realizing that you were an elf. I offered an apology just to be polite. If anyone treats Niao like a child again, there will be no forgiveness. The young girl said, still sniffling. To be honest, I couldn't imagine that she's older than me. She's an elf named Niao. In her hands, she held a rod much taller than herself. Her profession was a magician, and her rank was surprisingly diamond. So, with that, everyone's introductions were completed. Hero Eligen, Holy Knight Canaria, Dwarf Warrior Gorgono, the mysterious robed man, Swordsman Noct, Elf Magician Niao, and me, Kiska. With this group, we were about to embark on a journey into the Katarov dungeon. For me, it was my second dungeon expedition in my life.